Welcome back, Exalted Ones. Let's go ahead and get started with the review for issue 73. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the First Order TIE Fighters. During the Galactic Civil War, thousands upon thousands of different twin-ion engine craft were produced in the Cinar Fleet Systems factories and used to devastating effect throughout much of the conflict. If only through sheer numbers of the craft produced. After the Battle of Endor and its subsequent defeat in the Battle of Jakku, however, the Empire's fleet had been decimated and its remnants forced to retreat into unknown regions. There, its most zealous servants established the First Order, an organization driven by a desire to reinstate the rule of Empire by defeating the new Republic. The TIE Fighter would be central to this aim. We'll go ahead and do the heavily armed. As well as being able to take on long-range missions, the TIE SF is also heavily armed. Its primary weapons are two LS 9.6 laser cannons, but these particular TIEs also have a LB-14 dual laser turret that faces backwards and an ST-7 concussion warhead launcher to take on tougher opponents. The pilot and the rear gunner are seated back to back in both positions. Both possess an ejector seat that allows them a chance to escape and fight another day. The gunner can switch between cannons, mag pulse, rockets, and missiles with a computerized sight used to aim. A new approach. Without a galaxy of rigorously controlled factories at its disposal, the First Order made the important decision not to view their TIEs as expendable goods, as the Empire had done. Instead, each craft was valued highly, as were the pilots who were motivated enough to fly and fight for the First Order. This new approach also had a positive effect on the design of the craft itself. Aided by the engineers and the Cinar Jameis fleet systems, new ideas and designs got approval far more rapidly than during the days of the Galactic Empire, when every advisor or Moff had his own political agenda to pursue. The TIE FO model. The First Order commissioned two main fighters. The first was based on the Galactic Empire's most ubiquitous model, the TIE LN, which served as the basic design for an upgraded vessel named the TIE FO, standing for First Order. Still a short-range fighter, the craft retains the characteristic wings with solar gathering arrays. The design also takes advantage of some of the improvements that the Empire implemented in their TIEs, namely the improved solar cell and higher capacity converters introduced in the TIE Advanced project. The most impressive modification is the inclusion of a SJFS deflector shield generator. This is fitted in the pylons connecting the cockpit to the solar panels. Deflector shields also offer greatly improved performance in atmospheric conditions. The TIE SF model. The highly specialized TIE Advanced fighter had been an asset reserved for a privileged few during the time of the Empire, but the First Order expanded its production with its TIE SF model. The Special Forces model TIE fighter was designed as a long-range fighter and is equipped with miniaturized hyperdrive. This powerful ship is able to generate power from two reactors. It carries two crew members, is heavily armed, and is also outfitted with the deflector shields. A TIE SF can be recognized, by the red marks on the cockpit and its reinforced connections between the solar wings and the pylons. These thick connectors house the deuterium power cells that augment the starfighter's energy. The pylons themselves are also reinforced with layers of alloy bracing. Because of these upgrades, the TIE SF is known to produce more heat than it can handle, so engineers have fitted an experimental ion flux cooling system to address the issue. The TIE SF is much heavier than the standard TIE FO, but it is also a versatile starfighter that can dominate dogfights and perform excellently across a range of mission profiles. loaded in vertical storage decks aboard Resurgent-class Star Destroyers, such as the Finalizer. The TIEs are launched from different hangars and are more than ready to take on the New Republic and the Resistance anytime. Finn and Poe get off the Finalizer. When FN 2187 decided to rescue the captured Resistance pilot Poe Dameron from the Finalizer, both men escaped in the same TIE SF from the Star Destroyer's starboard hangar. While attempting to detach from an anchoring cable, FN 2187 destroyed the hangar's control stations, killing Colonel Kaplan and Petty Officer Thanison. Poe and FN 2187, who was quickly named Finn by Dameron, worked well together and almost managed to escape the Finalizer's guns. Despite Dameron's amazing flying skills, a blast from the Star Destroyer's ventral cannons hit the TIE, causing it to crash into the deserts of Jakku. Both men survived. Unable to find his new friend, Finn continued Poe's mission. The Resistance pilot was eventually discovered by a Blorina scavenger known as Naka Lit. Desert Chute. Many of the starship designs for the First Order, the TIE models, were based on ships that already appeared in the previous films. And in fact, the TIEs received the least visual change of all First Order vessels when compared to their Imperial counterparts. The new TIE fighters were developed during the pre-production process of The Force Awakens, and other modifications including the helmets of the TIE pilots, which were redesigned to fit more snugly. According to production designer Darren Guilford, the TIE used in Finn and Poe's escape from the Finalizer proved the most challenging to film, as the model used was built to a full-size 1:1 scale, and so was the largest set element the crew had to recreate on location. In this case, Al-Khazar's orange sand dunes in the United Arab Emirates. There we go. The ties for the New Order. Sytgeon Prime The Spire. Sytgeon Prime is a mountainous and snow-covered planet in the Nuri sector of the Outer Rim and is almost completely devoid of native life, except for the large Tibidi creatures that call it home. The planet is also home to one of the galaxy's most fortified prisons, the Spire. Also known as the Stygian Prison or the Spire was a top-secret fortress built into the mountains of one of the most inhospitable parts of the planet, its name befitting its slender architectural formation. It is not known who built the facility, and much of its early existence has become an enduring mystery. What is known is the spire was used extensively by Darth Sidious before he became Emperor, but whether he had it built, inherited it from an earlier Sith Lord, or whether he took it over from another party has never been determined. During this time, the spire was used primarily as a containment facility, but in reality, it was much more than that. Reachable only from the air, entry was gained by one of two docking ports. A small number of windows were set into the structure's heavy walls and were built of similarly thick transparent steel. The density of this material distorted the view of anyone hoping to look out from within, and in turn only allowed thin, weak streaks of light to spill into the building's interior. The dingy and claustrophobic atmosphere compounded the already cheerless and dungeon-like design of the prison. Darth Maul. At the time of the Clone Wars, it was in the Spire that Darth Sidious and Darth Tyrannus, known publicly as Supreme Chancellor Palpatine and Separatist leader Count Dooku, respectively, had prisoners that they wanted to disappear forever. In their effort to further the Sith plan, the most infamous of these prisoners, and one whose ties to the powerful Mother Talzin of Dathomir and influential Shadow Collective made him one of the gravest challenges to Sidious's design, was the former apprentice of the Sith Lord himself, Darth Maul. After the death of his brother Savage Opress at the hands of Darth Sidious, Maul had been left defeated and humiliated by his former master, and vowed bitter revenge. Darth Sidious and his new apprentice together moved to strike first, seizing Maul and taking him to the Spire. There he was brutally interrogated for the information relating to Talzin and the Shadow Collective. However, after Sidious had departed, leaving Darth Tyrannus in charge, Death Watch soldiers, Commander Saxon and Rook Kast, burst in and rescued Maul. Little did they know that their gambit had been orchestrated by agents of the Sith, who released plans of the Spire's weak spots in order to draw Maul's contacts into the open. The Spire was the perfect location for this deception, so forbidding that without the credible inside information, a rescue attempt would have been unthinkable. The Clone Wars. The Spire was both blast-proof and ray-shielded, making any kind of scanning impossible. It was further protected by the ground-to-air weapon systems, each tied into a sophisticated sensor array, as well as ships that patrolled the surrounding area. During the Clone Wars, the day-to-day running of the prison was handled by the Confederacy of Independent Systems, whose battle droids patrolled the corridors and exterior balconies. Elsewhere, in the depths of the Spire, more dreadful secret work was carried out, with Sith Lords Darth Sidious and Darth Tyrannus conspiring to imprison, torture, and interrogate those who may stand against them, even Sidious's former apprentice, Darth Maul. At the end of the Clone Wars, the Galactic Empire assumed control of the Spire, and the grim facility became the unhappy final destination of captured Jedi and other high-profile prisoners of the Empire. The Jedi Purge. Order 66, broadcast by Palpatine at the climax of the Clone Wars, had proved devastating to the Jedi, as across the galaxy their formerly loyal clone troopers turned against them. Many died in the first wave of attacks, but some managed to avoid the onslaught long enough to retreat into hiding as the Empire took control of the galaxy. This fact was played on by the evil agents of the Empire, the Inquisitors, and the story of Master Luminara Unduli was the case in point. In the chaos of Order 66, Unduli's final fate was unknown. The Grand Inquisitor used false reports of her being held at the Spire, which included flickering hologram footage to draw the Jedi survivors and rebel sympathizers. To ensure Force-sensitive rescuers had something to give them hope, Luminara's remains were kept in a biocontainer in a cell. This ensured the faint presence of the Force to encourage Jedi deeper into the Inquisitor's trap. Ghost of a Change. Some 15 years after the rise of the Empire, the Lothal rebels planned a daring raid on the Spire to rescue Master Unduli, having been tricked into believing she was still alive. When the group's weapons expert and tactician Sabine Wren talked her colleagues aboard the Ghost through the list of what they would face, it did little to encourage them. The weapon systems, the sensor arrays, and the patrolling TIE fighters all blocked access to the facility, and once inside, a rescue team would have to navigate their way along corridors that were constantly patrolled by stormtroopers. Although the rebels did manage to get in, it soon became apparent that they had been tricked. Master Unduli was long dead, and moreover, the plans that they had discovered for the prison had been planted for them. The rebels barely escaped with their lives. Let's talk about the Tibidi here. Distant cousins of the Minok and the Nebrae, the Tibidi was the only native species of Sytgeon Prime. Though the creatures were found on other mountainous worlds in the Outer Rim, large bat-like creatures, Tibidi flew using their huge wings and internal pockets of gas, and were able to pick up a wide range of frequencies, which on one occasion caused them to mistake the sensor jamming broadcast of the Lothal rebels' attack shuttle, the Phantom, for a mating call. This, however, played into the rebels' hands, as the usually passive creatures turned on the stormtroopers attacking the ship, buying the rebels enough time to escape. More Maul. The Spire prison on Stygian was as it was originally referred to, was introduced to fans in the first book of the Darth Maul Son of Dathomir, a four-part comic series released by Dark Horse Comics in 2014. Mysteries is the miniseries is based on storylines created for future episodes of the Clone Wars and continues Maul's story from where Season 5 left off. Later that year, the planet's full name of Sytgeon Prime was first spoken in the Star Wars Rebels episode Rise of the Old Masters. There you go. Space Stations, Clone Wars era. The sheer scale and spread of the Clone Wars put enormous strain on both combatants. Military and relief forces were required for maneuvers, which were often very far from friendly worlds. So keep the troops supplied. Vast space stations were built and deployed. So we have the Ringo Vinda. One of the most important separatist space stations during the Clone Wars was Ringo Vinda, a gigantic circular structure built around the mid-rim world of the same name. The station was under the control of renowned separatist leader Admiral Trench. The station would become the site of a fierce battle in the closing stages of the Clone Wars. Haven-class medical station. Casualties were an inevitable part of war, and numerous Haven-class medical stations were secretly built around the galaxy at the height of the Clone Wars to help the Republic care for their wounded. The stations resembled umbrellas with a series of docking bays equidistant from the control tower at their top. Medical transports shipped injured Republic forces to the multi-leveled hospital stations, only able to land when they broadcast the right code to open the hangar bay doors. Each medical station was capable of treating at least 60,000 clone troopers in tanks of healing Bacta. Occasionally, the location of the hidden medical station was discovered, as was the case with the Khalidi Shoals Medical Center, situated in the Outer Rim Territories star system of Rendilia and led by the Kaminoan Chief Nala Se, after Separatist leader Count Dooku learned of its location from his master Darth Sidious. He sent General Grievous and the heavy cruiser Malevolence to destroy the station. Medical transports from the nearby world of Naboo were used to hurriedly evacuate Khalidi Shoals, though ultimately Jedi General Anakin Skywalker was able to lead his Shadow Squadron of Y-Wing starfighters against the Grievous and thwart his plans. Decades later, the crew of the Rebel shuttle Phantom boarded the decommissioned and abandoned Haven-class medical station in Sector 11 to look for medical supplies. The station became the setting for a showdown for Jedi in training Ezra Bridger and a pair of Imperial Inquisitors after the astromech chopper accidentally caused a power surge that was detected by a nearby Imperial Star Destroyer. Valor, a huge Republic starbase operational in the Kurita system of the colonies during the Clone Wars. Valor was the location of the conflict's first Republic Fleet Strategy Conference, held to decide the best course of action in the developing war with the CIS, including members of the Jedi High Council and Republic military chiefs such as Tarkin. The conference was interrupted when Valor was attacked by Separatist forces. There you go. That is everything for space stations and everything in the review of issue 73. So again, this time we put together some framework. We got our hull plating. Next time we're going to get some more framework. We're going to get one of the inserts, and then we're going to have some more hull plating. I'm guessing this hull plating will go on the framework we just got done building. But that will be issue 74. I want to thank you all again for watching, and may the force be with you always.